Hey y'all, welcome to the Health Hustle, and I don't know about you, but I'm feeling extra grateful today because Thanksgiving is actually my favorite holiday. And while I'll be stuffing my face later today with turkey and all the fixings, I thought, why not do a Thanksgiving-inspired marketing episode? And so that's what we're gonna do. We will be ditching the hard selling tactics and embracing the warm fuzzies of the holiday season. We'll explore how to show your clients love with gratitude cards, creating content that resonates with the Thanksgiving spirit, and telling stories to build a deeper connection with your clients or customers. So grab a slice of pie, or in my opinion, sweet potatoes, get comfy, and let's explore how to make your health brand stand out this Thanksgiving. Let's go. All right, number one is gratitude cards, and I want to remind you not to take your customers for granted. I get it. We are business owners. We are busy. There are a million things to do, and the holidays just add even more onto that plate. But don't forget the people that supported you from the beginning. This is actually one of my favorite things to do every single year. This has been a reoccurring event in my calendar for a number of years now, but I take time during Thanksgiving to slow down and to write thank you and gratitude cards to all the people that have supported me along the way. Yes, of course, it's going to be friends and family, but also to clients and customers. This is such an easy thing to do, but also such an easy thing to just neglect or to never do at all. And in reality, the crazy thing about doing this every single year is that I've realized that I'm actually getting more out of it than often the people that are receiving the cards. When I take the time to slow down and to write out the things that I'm grateful for or the things that I appreciate about all the amazing people in my life, it actually reminds me of how lucky and grateful I am. It's actually very similar to people who have gratitude journals. When you actually take the time to sit down and think about all the amazing things in your life, is that often you start to notice them more often in your day-to-day activities. And hopefully this encourages you this year to take a little bit of time to slow down and do some handwritten letters. Here's how you do this. It's pretty simple. Step one, order some gratitude cards. I generally just get mine off of Amazon. I try to go for more of actually the funnier, quirky cards. Number two is to express why you're grateful for a number of people in your life. Obviously, you might have to ask some of these people for their addresses and just be like, hey, I just want to send you a kind gesture. And then the third thing is just make sure it's handwritten. When people type, obviously it doesn't take as much energy and be a lot easier for you, but that's not the point. The point of it is to just go a little above and a little beyond and show like how much you care by actually handwriting these letters, handwriting the address, and just make sure you have enough stamps to send out all the letters. And that's it. I think sometimes we forget how big of an impact small gestures can have, and there's something that just feels really good to take the time to slow down and write some gratitude for all the people that have supported you along the way and all the amazing people that are in your life. All right, number two is to create relevant content. Don't miss out on the opportunity to connect to your audience when they're already engaged and receptive to seasonal content. This is actually something I've really changed my mind on recently, is that I'm all for batching content, is to create, whether it's a calendar or have your posts scheduled out so that you can stay consistent and continue to nurture your audience. But the problem with this is that it forgets to be relevant of the day-to-day things that are happening in the real world. Far too often, people make the mistake of using social media to just shout into the void and tell people about all the amazing things that they're doing, when in reality, social media is actually an ongoing conversation. The best analogy I've ever heard of this was that it's like a party, is that you want to get involved in the party and the conversation that's already happening. And if there's a holiday coming up, I think it's a good idea to get involved in the things that people are already thinking about and talking about. Think about it like this. If you were at a college party and all of a sudden your buddy decided to do a keg stand and he's been able to balance a dog on top of his feet while he's doing the keg stand, I'm sure you had some thoughts and comments and you'd want to talk about it, right? But unfortunately, what most people do is they're like, oh no, on Thursdays, I generally talk about this topic, so I can't talk about anything relevant that's actually happening in the real world. And you completely miss the opportunity to get involved in something that's actively happening in the real world right now. The other problem with batching content too is that oftentimes we miss out on the opportunity to learn from the content that we create. This isn't necessarily holiday or Thanksgiving related, but when we create a piece of content, the best thing we can do is then look at why it worked and why it didn't work and then learn from that experience. Batching content oftentimes misses the boat on that one as well. So here's my suggestion. Join the party that is already happening. Create Thanksgiving relevant content, or any holidays for that matter. Talk about how you're celebrating Thanksgiving or the holidays. Spread a little gratitude for others, because obviously that is top of mind for a lot of people around this time of year. Really ultimately just tune into the current holiday and try to create content around it. I'll be running the turkey trot here on Thursday, and so you can damn well be sure that I'm going to be creating content around the turkey trot. All right, number three is storytelling. I have been beating this drum so hard lately because I've become more and more infatuated with the fact that everything in this world is stories, from the businesses that we create to how we share information to how we make a connection with another human, is that everything has been rooted in stories and framing and how we think about things. And so your ability to tell good stories is just so far beyond important. I can't even express it enough. Speaking of stories, 2 years ago, Thanksgiving of 2022 was actually one of my favorite Thanksgiving of all times. And part of the reason is because my parents drove all the way down from Minnesota, which is like a 20+ hour drive, just to spend the holiday with me. It was great. We got to explore the Texas Capitol. We got to eat some barbecue, spend the holidays together, and it was all great until I managed to get my parents' car towed. And so what happened was my parents generously let me borrow their car because they were staying in an Airbnb that was about a half an hour from where I was living at the time. And I drove it home. It was late one night. I parked it in the first parking spot that I could find and then went to bed and woke up the next morning to go actually to a podcast interview, only to find that the car was gone. Poof. Vanished, completely disappeared. And what I realized is that where I had parked it was actually in somebody's paid parking spot in my parking garage. And so they were kind enough during the holiday season to call a tow truck company and get my vehicle towed, even though there were plenty of other parking spots all around. I get it. They paid for the one that was very close to the door, but honestly, I thought that was kind of a dick move. But regardless, after I worked through the 5 stages of grief and was freaking out about where the hell to find the car, I did eventually find the tow truck company that have towed the car. And I called my parents and told them about the situation, and obviously they weren't super happy about it. For starters, they now had to get an Uber to the tow truck location, and I had to meet them at the tow truck location to get our car out of it. My father graciously paid to get the vehicle out of the pound so that we could get the vehicle back. And by the time we got it all sorted out, I remember getting in the car and said, well, at least we're making some memories. After we laughed it off, well, I laughed it off. I don't think they thought it was super funny at the time. It was honestly just a great reminder of how supportive my parents are despite all the foolish decisions that I make. And the reason I tell you this story is just to show you the power of storytelling. Hopefully that story was semi-engaging for you, but I'm sure you'll probably remember it now. But as you can see, me telling a story is obviously a lot more engaging and entertaining and honestly memorable at the end of the day. And so if you're not telling more stories in all of your marketing, definitely do more of it. As I said, stories are how humans have connected for all the time and probably always will. So the more of them you can tell, the more people will connect with you and your brand. And so just as a final recap of those 3 things that we covered today that would help with your marketing is number 1 is to write thank you or gratitude cards. Number 2 is to create relevant content of the things that are happening day to day. And number 3 is to tell more stories. Hope this was helpful, guys. Hope you have a great holiday, and I will talk to you next time. Peace.